is pinned up. Greetings, my peoples, and welcome to this episode of Vinyl Douche ASMR. Thank you for joining us, and if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and feel free to join the conversation while you're at it. So, as you can see, this week's episode is, and excuse me, I'm just getting to know my new Yeti microphone. So if you have any tips, any other ASMRs out there who are using this thing, let me know. Alright, just give me, I'm gonna adjust that. Okay. Sounding better from this side, yes. Okay. Yeah, okay. Alright, so as you can see, this week's episode will be on Chicago's second album, and it's their second self-titled album. And this is 1970s Chicago, or what will be later known as Chicago 2. So as I said, this is their second album, and their first, they were actually under another name. They were called the Chicago Transit Authority, which is the actual name of Chicago's Transit Authority in the city of Chicago. So, after they were threatened with a lawsuit, they changed their name to just Chicago. And that's what they were known for from then on. So, I'm not that big of a Chicago fan myself, but I do love some of their singles, and their big single is 25 or 6 to 4. 25 or 6 to 4. Even though it's the name of the song, and probably the only Chicago song I can name, I can never actually name it correctly because of the sequences of numbers. But that song in particular is why I picked up the album, and I saw it in a bin in a record shop while I was visiting Philadelphia. It only cost me about $3, so I definitely didn't want to leave it there, and figured it was time to take a look at this thing. And looking up Chicago, the band, found out that I didn't know that their original name was the Chicago Transit Authority. And I didn't know that the organizer for Woodstock booked them for Woodstock, but also booked them for the Fillmore and had them play that show instead of Woodstock, and Santana took Chicago's place at Woodstock, which was a huge show for Santana, and it wasn't for Chicago, unfortunately. Okay. So their first album was in '69, so this was a year later, and this album was recorded in under a month in August 1969, and was later released in January. So, the album was released in January of 1970, and although their first album, which was also self-titled as the Chicago Transit Authority, that album didn't do bad, but this album is considered their breakout, for whatever reason. I think because this particular album had more charting songs than their first album did, so they'll go down in history as their breakouts. And besides the song that I mentioned before, which is 25 or 624, Make Me Smile and Color My World also charted at number 9 for Make Me Smile and number 7 for Color My World. Alright, so the album was also number 4 on the US Billboard charts when it was released, and it also received 3 Grammy nominations. And did it win? Nope, just nominations for Album of the Year, Contemporary Vocal Group, and Best Album Cover, which I didn't know was a category. That's awesome. So some more on that later. But let's get to the band, because on their second album, the band was pretty much the same as their first. So on bass and vocals, you have Peter Cetera. We have Terry Kath on guitar and vocals, Robert Lamb on keyboards and vocals, Lee Loughnane on trumpet and vocals, James Pankow on trombone, Walter Parazador on saxophone, flute, clarinet, and vocals, and Danny Seraphine on drums and percussion. Chicago once described themselves as a rock band with horns, which they kind of are. And the album itself was recorded at CBS 30th Street Studios in New York City, and some work was also done at CBS in Hollywood. And let's get to the production. Who are the producers? So your producer was James William Gauricio, and we have to actually credit Peter Matz as well, because he is credited as orchestration on Prelude on this album, which orchestration is a big part of Chicago, because of what I mentioned before as far as being a rock group with horns. You have a lot of horn sections and percussion, and it's a big deal. It's funny, it's CBS Records, but it's Columbia Stereo. I don't know. The label situations always are kind of confusing. I guess it's maybe like the movie studios where a studio can be producing a film and another studio be distributing it. I guess maybe it's like that. Anyways, I'll talk about the cover some, because as sort of basic as it looks, it's actually a little bit like, it's kind of iconic. So this was the first time that Chicago used this logo, which they went on to use for the rest of their career. And it was designed by John Berg and Nick Fasciano. And they were nominated for the best album cover. And John Berg said that the Coca-Cola logo was the inspiration for this one, and you can see that clearly. So the album cover is part of the permanent collection at the MoMA here in New York. And that's, simplicity goes a long way sometimes. And this is definitely a simple and iconic cover. Alright, so the lyrics to one of the songs, this is what this all is, and let me get the song, I know which one it is. I believe it better and soon. This was, we were deep in the mud of Vietnam at this point. And a lot of unrest here in the States, and all the universities with all the young people. So they were clearly affected by that, and putting out music, and their message were sort of on par with peace and revolution at the time, and a lot of these words echo that. So you can kind of see why this was like $3. It's the condition of the packaging is terrible shape, but the records themselves are fine. So I'm gonna tape up some of this stuff a little and replace the inner record sleeves. But let's take a look at these. Side 3, 4. Okay. Alright, let's get the other one out. Oh, this is a poster too. Let's see. Got James Van Cal, Daniel Seraphine, Robert Lamb, Walter Parazater, Peter Cetera, Terry Kath, there you have it. All over walls of Illinois, I imagine this poster was pinned up. Cool. Okay. Finishing the Sour Patch Kid. Okay. Okay, side 1. Start with moving in. The road. A poem for the people. And in the country. Look how many more songs in this side. Alright. Number 6 is Make Me Smile, which was big single. So Much to Say, So Much to Give, followed by Anxiety's Moment. No. Oh my God. Yeah, that was right. Anxiety's Moment. West Virginia Fantasies. Number 10 is Color My World. Number 11 is To Be Free. And number 12 is Now More Than Ever. Can't find my brush right now. No, I'll get to that later. So good. Let's get rid of this one too. All right, outside. Side 3, we have Fancy Colors. Side 14, 25 or 4 to 6. I messed it up. 25 or 6 to 4. Oh man. I've been listening to that song for years. Still. 15 is The Prelude. 16 is AM Morning. 17 is PM Morning. 18 is Memories of Love. And on the last side, It Better End Soon, followed by first movement, followed by second movement, followed by third movement, fourth movement, and where do we go from here, closing out the album. Alright, let's take these things closed. So, I know this isn't like the best you can do as far as repair is concerned, but, you know, this was a bargain album, and like I said, I just sort of got it for one song. This tape will do. Let's check out again what's happened. of unrest happening in the 1970s because people weren't happy with an unjust war. And unrest is what should be happening when the government's doing fucked up things. I think you know where I'm going with that. Especially in our current situation. Okay. Alright. There we go. Yeah, poster can go back to sleep in there. Step. Let's see, it's kind of thick now, so it's not going to be the easiest thing. Okay. Voila. Alright. There we have it. 1970s Chicago. Their second album and their second breakout. Sort of band went 2 stars. Okay. Great. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you join us next time.